The ancient star system lay in deep silence, untouched for millions of years. Its suns were dim, its planets cold, and its debris belts moved slowly like tired shadows. In the center of this forgotten place rested something older than almost every living species in the galaxy. Eltharin waited in his stasis chamber, surrounded by crystal structures that hummed with old memories. He had slept through ages, through wars, through the rise and fall of hundreds of empires. But now a soft pulse flickered through the chamber. Something in the galaxy had changed, and his ancient senses felt the shift. His eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dark. The stasis field dissolved around him. He stood tall and thin, with skin like polished stone and faint lines of light moving under it. He did not breathe like humans, nor think like them, but he remembered them clearly. They were one of the few things in his long memory that still held weight. He stepped out of the chamber and moved through the silent hall, each step echoing across the vast metallic floor as he walked. His mind reached out into the galactic void. He sensed tension, political storms, fleets shifting quietly, governments whispering. And at the center of that storm was one familiar word: humanity. The young species had spread quickly, faster than most civilizations at their age. They had built space stations, colonized nearby planets, and traveled beyond the limits expected of them. Their speed surprised many. Their courage frightened more. Eltharin reached his old console, its surface lighting up as it recognized him. The symbols on it glowed softly and moved like fluid patterns. He placed his hand on them, letting them pull the data threads into his mind. Information rushed into him: reports, observations, political documents, old recordings from Galactic Council meetings. There was a common concern shared by several members: humans were unpredictable. They did not follow the usual patterns of rising civilizations. They moved faster, adapted quicker, fought harder, and survived situations other species would not. There were already small conflicts happening at the edges of human space. Minor disputes, border misunderstandings. A few skirmishes where human explorers refused to back down even when outnumbered. The Council interpreted this as aggression, but Eltharin knew better. He had seen humans long before they reached the star's primitive, fragile, and yet filled with a fire that refused to be extinguished. They were not violent by nature. They were survivors. A communication signal reached him from far away. The Galactic Council was calling him back. He had been a respected ancient witness for many cycles, a being so old that even the Council listened when he spoke. They believed he could offer guidance about humanity. Guidance they thought would support their plan to contain the young species before they grew stronger. Eltharin stood still for a moment, thinking quietly. He had seen many civilizations make this mistake before. They feared what they did not understand. They tried to control those who grew too quickly. He remembered 3 great empires that had vanished because they underestimated a species smaller and weaker than themselves. Humans reminded him of that species, only far more determined. He prepared his ship, a vessel built so long ago that it did not match any modern design. It glowed softly, shaped like a floating shard of crystal. With a thought, he activated it. The ship drifted upward, leaving the silent world behind. As the engines hummed, the stars stretched into long lines. He was heading for the center of galactic politics, the place where the fate of many worlds would be decided. During the journey, he let his mind drift to the distant past. He remembered walking upon Earth when humans still lived in small groups, using fire and simple tools. He remembered watching them struggle through harsh winters, through predators, through disease and hunger. And through it all, they kept moving forward. They rebuilt everything they lost. They learned fast, faster than any species he had encountered. He remembered one particular moment. A storm had destroyed a human settlement. A child, barely able to stand, cried beside the wreckage. The adults returned to rebuild immediately, working through the night, teaching the child how to help. That memory stayed with him. There was something in humans that refused to surrender, even when the universe tried to crush them. Now, that same spirit was rising across the galaxy. Some species saw danger in it. Eltharin saw a potential. After several days of travel, he arrived at the council station. The structure was enormous, a planet-sized ring of shining metal and artificial gravity fields. Ships from hundreds of civilizations moved around it like tiny sparks. The moment his ship approached, every sensor in the area recognized his signature. Doors opened. Paths cleared. Even the automated systems respected his authority. He entered the station, where members of dozens of species waited in long corridors. Some bowed. Others simply watched in awe. Eltharin was a legend to them. He had seen events no traveler could imagine. He had witnessed wars older than their sun systems. A young diplomat approached him, her silver eyes glowing softly. She belonged to the Orixi, a peaceful species known for their logic and diplomacy. "Honored elder," she said gently, "the council awaits you. They believe your wisdom will guide them in the matter of the human species. The discussion has grown. Many fear conflict is coming. They hope you will suggest a way to control the humans before it begins." Eltharin paused. "Control them?" he repeated quietly. The diplomat nodded. "Yes, some believe that unless steps are taken now, humanity will grow too strong to challenge in the future." Eltharin looked into her eyes. She meant no disrespect. She simply did not understand the truth. "Show me to the chamber," he said. As he walked through the long hallways, he saw nervous movement among council guards. They stood straighter than usual. Their expressions were tense. He sensed fear spreading like a slow wave. Fear of the unknown. Fear of humanity. He entered the grand hall, a vast circular room filled with floating platforms, each belonging to a different civilization. The air vibrated with the exchange of countless languages. The council members were already deep in discussion. One ambassador shouted that humans were expanding too quickly. Another claimed that humans refused to follow normal diplomatic rules. Several insisted that humanity's rapid progress was unnatural, dangerous, something that must be stopped before it was too late. Eltharin stood silently while the arguments continued. Not a single member considered the idea that humanity might be misunderstood. Not one of them recognized the pattern of a species pushed by hardship and driven by survival. Finally, the council leader noticed his presence. "Honored Eltharin," she said, her voice echoing across the chamber, "we welcome your wisdom. You have seen more than any of us. We ask you to guide us. This matter concerning the species known as humanity grows more urgent by the hour. Their expansion threatens balance. Their behavior concerns us. We believe they may become a danger to the galaxy if not restrained. What do you advise?" Eltharin looked across the room. Hundreds of eyes watched him. Countless minds waited for his answer. He could feel the fear behind their polished words. He remembered the child standing in the ruins on ancient Earth. He remembered their resilience in the face of impossible odds. He remembered their ability to rise stronger every time they fell. He spoke quietly, but his voice carried across the entire chamber. "Before I answer," he said, "tell me one thing. What is it you fear most? Their weapons? Their ships? Their numbers?" An ambassador from a warlike species responded immediately. "We fear their unpredictability. They do not behave like other young races. They push forward instead of accepting limits. They act without hesitation. That is why they must be controlled." Eltharin's eyes glowed faintly. "Then you do not understand humanity at all," he said. The room fell silent. He continued, "You believe they are dangerous because they do not bow to you. But humanity bows to nothing, not out of arrogance, but because they have spent their entire existence fighting to survive. You cannot intimidate them. You cannot break them. Every attempt will only make them stronger." Whispers filled the hall. Eltharin stepped forward. "I once observed them when they were fragile, barely able to protect themselves from the world around them. Yet they endured. Every loss forged them. Every challenge sharpened them. They do not grow through peace. They grow through struggle." His voice grew heavier. "And if you choose to provoke them now, you will create an enemy unlike anything this galaxy has ever seen." The chamber trembled with shock. A few ambassadors exchanged worried glances. Some refused to believe him. Others were suddenly afraid. Eltharin finished with words that echoed across the hall. Do not provoke humanity. If you do, you will not survive what they become. The council chamber remained filled with quiet tension long after Eltharin finished speaking. His words hung in the air like heavy stones, pressing against the minds of every ambassador and representative present. Some stared at him in disbelief, others in fear, and a few in anger. But no one dared to interrupt him. They knew he spoke from experience that none of them possessed. The silence finally broke when the council leader, a tall being with shimmering green skin, rose from her floating platform. Her voice was calm, but the uncertainty beneath it was impossible to hide. Honored Eltharin, she said, your warning is powerful, but many among us do not fully understand. We have observed humanity only through distant reports and limited contact. Their growth is fast, their behavior unpredictable. We ask you to explain why you believe they cannot be controlled or slowed. Several ambassadors nodded. Some leaned forward with anxious curiosity. Others watched skeptically, convinced that Eltharin exaggerated the danger. Eltharin studied them for a moment. He could sense their confusion. They were used to young species behaving in certain patterns, slow advancement, careful diplomacy, and fear of powerful empires. Humanity followed none of these expected paths. You misunderstand humanity because you judge them by your standards, he said softly. They do not think the way you do. They do not fear the things you fear. Their history is full of hardship, more than most of you can imagine. Every time they were pushed down, they rose again with more strength. A representative from the Siraxi, a species known for their analytical minds, tilted his head. But hardship does not make a species dangerous. It makes them humble, does it not? Eltharin almost smiled. Not humanity. They turn hardship into fuel. They grow stronger in adversity. When you challenge them, you shape them. When you try to limit them, you teach them to break limits. This is why attempts to control them will fail. The room grew restless. None had expected such a description. Another ambassador, this one from the militaristic Draken Empire, spoke sharply. Your words make humans sound unstoppable. That is impossible. They are still young. Their fleet is small compared to ours. Their technology is decades behind. How could they possibly threaten the great powers of the galaxy? Eltharin looked at the Draken warrior. Strength is not measured by numbers or machines. It is measured by will, and there is no will in this galaxy stronger than that of humanity. The Draken ambassador snorted. Words. Eltharin stepped closer. The faint light under his skin flickered brighter. Then let me show you something. With a wave of his hand, the central projector activated. A series of images and recordings appeared in the air. The first showed humans on a frozen world, struggling against violent storms. Their shelters collapsed. Their machinery failed. Yet they survived by working together, by adapting, by refusing to give up. The second showed a human space station damaged by a meteor shower. Fires burned. Systems failed. Most species would have abandoned the station or waited helplessly for rescue. But humans patched systems with whatever they could find, fought the flames with their bare hands, and kept the station alive. The third image showed a human colony attacked by an unknown alien creature. Instead of fleeing, the humans worked together to build traps, study the creature's weaknesses, and eventually defeat it. The ambassadors watched in silence. They could not deny what they saw. This is who they are, Eltharin said. They do not surrender. They do not retreat. They learn, they adapt, and they overcome. If you treat them as enemies, you will create the greatest force of resistance the galaxy has ever seen. Whispers filled the chamber. Some ambassadors traded nervous looks. Others seemed deep in thought, but not everyone was convinced. A representative from the Zalari Confederation raised one of her thin arms. Even so, their speed of expansion is dangerous. They colonize worlds faster than regulations allow. Their explorers enter restricted sectors. Their behavior disrupts balance. We cannot simply ignore this. Eltharin nodded. I do not ask you to ignore them. I ask you to understand them. Their behavior is not aggression. It is curiosity. It is survival. They explore because they always seek what lies beyond the horizon. They expand because they hope to secure a future for their people. Another ambassador spoke. But they do not follow our rules. Your rules were made by a species much older than them, Eltharin answered. Humanity has not yet learned the ways of the galaxy. And you expect them to act like you, even though they were shaped by a completely different history. The council began debating again. Their voices rose and fell like waves. Some argued for caution. Others insisted on intervention. A few believed Eltharin completely. The discussions grew louder, more complicated, and more emotional. During this chaos, the Erixi diplomat who had greeted Eltharin earlier stood quietly beside him. She watched the arguing with sad eyes. They do not want to listen, she whispered. They will, Eltharin replied. When the truth becomes impossible to ignore. She hesitated. Do you think a conflict is coming? Eltharin looked toward the far side of the chamber. If the council continues down this path, yes. But it does not have to happen. Humanity seeks peace. They are not looking for war. They simply refuse to be controlled. He paused. They always have. While the council argued, far away in human territory, a diplomatic ship approached neutral space. A small fleet escorted it. The ship carried representatives from Earth, hoping to establish better communication with neighboring species. They did not know about the growing debate in the council. They only wanted cooperation, but their presence in neutral space immediately triggered alarms in nearby council patrols. Back in the chamber, an urgent message flashed across the central display. A council guard rushed forward and handed a datapad to the leader. She read it, her expression tightening. We have received a report, she announced. A human exploration fleet has entered a sensitive border region. Council patrol ships have moved to intercept. The situation may escalate. Murmurs filled the chamber again. Some ambassadors reacted with fear, others with anger. See? The Dreekan ambassador shouted. They already threaten us. They move where they are not allowed. This is why they must be controlled. Another representative added, if they do not back down, our patrol ships will open fire. Eltharin closed his eyes for a moment. He could sense the danger. Humans were not the type to retreat when threatened, especially if they believed they had done nothing wrong. And the council patrol ships were known for their strict protocols. Send a message to your patrol ships, Eltharin said firmly. Tell them to proceed with caution. Humans will defend themselves if attacked. And that defense will be fierce. The council leader hesitated. We cannot show weakness. Eltharin turned to her, his voice steady. You will show strength by choosing wisdom over fear. Before she could answer, the chamber's lights dimmed. A large hologram appeared, showing the live situation near the border sector. Human ships hovered calmly, their weapons offline. Council patrol ships surrounded them with raised shields and active weapon systems. A communication line opened. A human captain appeared on the display. He looked calm, confident, and alert. This is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Exploration Fleet, he said. We mean no harm. We are simply passing through neutral space. We request communication and clarification, not conflict. His words were respectful, but his eyes showed determination. The council members watched with mixed reactions. Some expected fear or panic from a young species facing armed patrol ships. But the human captain showed none. A council officer responded sharply. You are in restricted space. Turn back immediately. Failure to do so will be seen as a hostile act. The human captain's expression hardened slightly. We are in neutral territory according to the latest navigation charts. If there is an error, we are willing to correct it peacefully. But we will not retreat under threat. We ask for cooperation, not intimidation. The council chamber erupted. Some accused the humans of provocation. Others believed the patrol ships were overreacting. Eltharin stepped forward. Do you see? He said quietly. They do not seek war, but they will not be bullied. If you threaten them, they will stand their ground. This is their nature. The hologram showed the tension rising. The Council patrol ships moved closer. The human ships remained steady, prepared but still non-aggressive. Order your ships to lower weapons, Elthurin urged the Council leader. If you fire first, everything I have warned you about will begin. The Council leader hesitated. Torn between pressure from aggressive members and the wisdom of the ancient being, after a long moment, she gave the order, lower weapons. Open peaceful communication. The patrol ships obeyed, pulling back their weapon systems. The humans noticed instantly. The tension eased. The human captain nodded calmly. Thank you. We are ready to discuss navigation routes and avoid misunderstandings. The chamber relaxed slightly. Disaster had been avoided for now, but Elthurin knew this was only the beginning. The Council's fear had grown, not disappeared, and he understood that unless the Council learned quickly, a single mistake could ignite a conflict that would shake the galaxy. As he watched the hologram fade, he whispered to himself, humanity has stepped into the light, and the galaxy is not ready for what comes next. Elthurin stood at the edge of the grand hall as the holographic display slowly dissolved into thin air. The tension from the border incident still clung to the atmosphere like a heavy fog. Many ambassadors whispered nervously among themselves. Some looked relieved that disaster had been avoided, while others appeared frustrated that the patrol ships had backed down. But one thing was clear: the entire Council had seen a glimpse of humanity's nature, and it had shaken them. The Council leader cleared her throat, trying to regain control of the chamber. We will continue the discussion, she announced. But her voice lacked the confidence she once carried. The human captain's calm defiance had left a mark on every mind present. Representative from the Zalari Confederation rose sharply. This is exactly what we feared. Even when surrounded, they refused to yield. This is not diplomacy. This is pride. It is a sign of danger. Another ambassador responded, or it is strength. They did not attack even when threatened. That alone speaks volumes. Arguments sparked again, each voice trying to dominate the others. Elthurin watched quietly. He had seen scenes like this many times in his long life councils, arguing over young species they did not understand. But this time felt different. The galaxy was changing faster than the Council could adapt, and humanity was at the center of that change. Finally, the Council leader turned toward him. Elthurin, we request your voice once more. Your words carry great weight. Explain to us why humans behave as they do. Help us understand what we witnessed. All eyes shifted to him. The room became silent. Elthurin stepped forward, his movements slow but deliberate. The faint light under his skin pulsed softly. His presence alone demanded attention. What you saw, he began, was not pride. It was not arrogance. It was certainty. Humans do not retreat from danger unless they must. They do not fear strength, but they respect fairness. When treated as equals, they respond with trust. But when threatened, they stand firm. The Dreekan ambassador scoffed. So they will challenge us at every turn? Only if you provoke them, Elthurin replied calmly. They do not seek conflict, but they do not run from it either. They believe in solving problems directly, not hiding behind fear or doubt. The ambassadors exchanged uncertain glances. Elthurin raised his hand, activating the central projector once more. This time, the images were not of humans in crisis, but of their progress. Their early spacecraft. Their first colonies. Their attempts at peaceful contact with alien species. Their willingness to help weaker civilizations despite having limited resources. Look at them closely, he said. Their history is not one of domination. It is one of survival. Every step they take, every advancement they make, comes from their desire to ensure they are never helpless again. They do not expand to conquer. They expand to secure a safe future. The Council leader leaned forward. Then why do they keep entering restricted sectors? Why do they ignore our warnings? Elthurin sighed softly. Because your warnings mean nothing to them if they do not understand the reason behind them. You assume they know your histories, your borders, your old conflicts. They do not. They are still new to this galaxy. They still believe that space is open and full of opportunity. They do not understand that some paths lead into old wounds and fragile territories. A representative from the Siraxi spoke gently. Then perhaps we should teach them, not threaten them. Elthurin nodded. Indeed, they will listen if approached with respect. But if you attempt to control them through fear, you will awaken something far stronger and far more dangerous. The Dreekan ambassador slammed a fist against his platform. Dangerous? They are barely a century into space travel. Elthurin looked directly at him. His eyes glowed a bit brighter. That is what makes them dangerous. They have reached this level in only a few generations. What do you think they will become in a few centuries? Silence followed. Heavy, uneasy silence. The Dreekan ambassador lowered his gaze. Just then, another urgent message blinked onto the holographic display. A young council guard rushed forward with wide, nervous eyes. Council members, the guard announced. Another report has arrived from the border sector. The human fleet is attempting to communicate peacefully again. They are sending diplomatic requests for navigation data to avoid crossing restricted borders. They are not preparing for conflict. The room buzzed with surprise. They seek peace, the Erixi diplomat whispered. Even after being threatened. Elthurin closed his eyes, relieved. It was as he expected. Humanity did not want war, not now, not ever, unless pushed to the point of no return. The council leader rose. We must respond to their request. If they seek cooperation, then we should. Before she could finish, a sharp alarm echoed throughout the chamber. A new hologram flashed to life, showing a small council starship drifting near the border. Its hull was damaged and sparks trailed behind it. Gasps filled the room. What happened? The Zelare representative cried. An automated report scrolled across the screen. Unknown malfunction during patrol maneuver. Engines failed. Life support critical. No response from crew. A second later, another hologram appeared beside the first. A human exploration ship had moved toward the damaged council vessel. Activating rescue protocols. The council chamber went silent. The human captain's voice came through the feed. This is Captain Elias Ward. We have detected a council vessel in distress. We are beginning emergency rescue operations. Requesting permission to tow them to safety. Shock rippled through the ambassadors. Humans were risking their own ship to save a council vessel that had threatened them only hours earlier, the council leader whispered. They are helping us. Even after all this, Elthurin watched with calm certainty. Because that is who they are? They do not abandon those in need. They do not let others die, even enemies. The hologram showed human engineers boarding the damaged council ship, carrying tools and medical supplies. They worked quickly. They stabilized the life support system. They evacuated injured crew members. They secured the failing hull. The council ambassador stared in stunned silence. After several minutes, the human captain spoke again. Council leadership, your crew is stable. We will escort them to the nearest station for medical treatment. We expect no reward or recognition. It is our duty as explorers to help those in danger. For a long moment, no one in the chamber spoke. Finally, the Siraxi representative said softly, Perhaps we have misunderstood this species more than we realized. The Dreekan ambassador, who had been the most hostile toward humanity, stared at the hologram with a conflicted expression. They saved our people, he murmured. Even though they had every reason not to. Elthurin stepped forward. His voice carried the weight of ages. This is the truth I have tried to show you. Humans are not perfect. They can be stubborn. They can be emotional. They can be reckless. But they are also compassionate, brave, and loyal. And when they choose to help you, they will stand with you until the end. He paused, letting his words sink in. But if you turn them into enemies, if you provoke them, then you will see a power that no fleet, no empire, no council can withstand. The chamber grew still once more. Then, for the first time since the debate began, the council leader looked not fearful, but thoughtful. "It is time," she said quietly, "that we speak with humanity not as overseers but as equals. We must understand them, not judge them. We must learn from them, not fear them." Eltharin nodded slowly. That is the only path to peace. But deep inside he sensed something else. The galaxy was beginning to shift. While many in the council were finally opening their minds, a smaller, more dangerous group had not. And they would not accept peace so easily. As Eltharin left the chamber that day, he knew the real test had only just begun. The council chamber was silent when the voices faded. Only the hum of the deep shields could be heard. Every counselor stared at the air where the ancient being had just vanished. None of them moved. Their minds were frozen between fear and disbelief. The warnings were too heavy, too direct, too clear. And yet, many of them still wanted to deny it. Jorx stood still at the center, feeling the cold weight in his chest. He knew that the words were true. He had seen too much already. He had watched humans fight creatures twice their size and survive situations no other species could. He had seen their strange power himself. His thoughts were interrupted when Counselor Velner finally spoke. His voice was loud but slightly shaken. He pretended to be calm, but the fear inside him was obvious. "We cannot accept this story," Velner said. "This is an attempt to control us. Humans may be strong, but they cannot be this powerful. The Ancient One must be exaggerating." Another counselor, a thin creature with 3 glowing eyes, leaned forward. "But what if the warning is real? What if we provoke them and they react in ways we cannot predict?" Velner laughed weakly. "Even then, they are still a young species. They only discovered warp engines a short time ago. We have thousands of years of experience. We are not the ones who should fear." Jorx looked at Velner and felt a sharp irritation. The counselor was trying to protect his pride instead of accepting the truth. Jorx raised his hand. "Counselor Velner," he said quietly, "you did not see what I saw. Humans are not dangerous because of their ships or weapons. They are dangerous because of who they are. The ancient being was not lying. We must think carefully." Velner crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. "You defend them too much, Commander. Perhaps your time with the humans has blinded you." Jorx stepped forward. His voice stayed calm, but each word was sharp. "I am not blinded. I am warning you. If you provoke them, they will respond. Not with revenge, but with something stronger. They become unstoppable when they believe they are protecting someone or when they face an enemy that threatens their survival." The chamber murmured. Some counselors nodded, some looked unsure, and a few looked frustrated. It was then that the lights dimmed for a moment. The council chamber sensors detected a warp signature near the border. Everyone turned toward the display panels as new information flowed in. "Incoming communication from the outer defense stations," a guard announced. "Unknown fleet detected. Large numbers. Not human." The counselors reacted at once. Some stood up, alarmed. Some whispered urgently. Velner's face changed from confident to pale. "Put the image on the main screen," he ordered. The lights dropped further as the screen expanded. A dark space field appeared, filled with enormous ships. Their hulls were shaped like blades, sharp and glowing faintly red. Their engines pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat. Jorx felt his breath catch. He recognized the design. "The Dravari," he said softly. "They are an ancient warrior race. They destroyed entire worlds in the past." Several counselors froze. "But they vanished many centuries ago," one whispered. "It seems they have returned," Jorx replied. The Dravari ships continued to move forward, slow but confident. They were testing the borders, not attacking yet, but showing their presence. It was a warning, a declaration, and it arrived right after the ancient being's message. For a few seconds, the counselors simply stared. Then Velner turned toward Jorx. "You worked closely with humans," he said quickly. "You know their military. Would humans assist us in this situation?" Jorx hesitated. The question felt strange. The council had treated humans with suspicion for a long time. They refused to give them equal membership. They believed humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable. Now the council wanted their help. Humans will help if we ask, Jorik said. But we must ask with respect, not with demands, and not with insults hidden behind politeness. They remember unfair treatment. They do not forget mistreatment. Vellner tapped his desk nervously. Then we must send a diplomatic request. Something formal. Something balanced. We do not have time for diplomacy, another counselor argued. The Dravari fleet grows every minute. Look at the scans. More ships are arriving. On the screen, new Dravari signatures appeared one after another. The fleet became larger, stretching across the border region. They were gathering strength. Jorik felt a deep heaviness inside him. He understood now why the ancient being had returned, why it had warned them. The galaxy was about to change again. He turned toward the council. We must contact humanity immediately. But before he could continue, the chamber doors opened. A messenger rushed inside. He looked breathless, terrified. We received another message from the Dravari. He shouted. The counselor stiffened. Read it, Vellner ordered. The messenger unfolded the holoscreen. A tall armored figure appeared, standing on a dark metallic platform. The Dravari commander had glowing red eyes and long bone-like armor. His voice was deep and confident. To the Galactic Council, the Dravari commander said. We have returned to reclaim our old territories. You may surrender without resistance. If you resist, we will remove every obstacle. The commander paused and leaned closer. And do not involve the new species from the blue world. Those humans. We destroyed their kind in the past. We can do it again. The message ended. Vellner turned to Jorik slowly. What does he mean by destroyed their kind in the past? Humans were not spacefaring then. Jorik felt chills run down his spine. I think the Dravari fought early humans on a primitive version of Earth, long before humans developed their technologies. Maybe humans barely survived. Maybe it was forgotten by time. But humans now are not the same. A quiet murmur spread through the room. Jorik continued. If the Dravari provoke humans, they will regret it. Humans do not break easily. They rise again and again. The counselors exchanged looks. Fear mixed with uncertainty. Then we must warn humanity, said one counselor. We must protect them, another added. Jorik shook his head. No, protecting them is not possible. They protect themselves. What we must do is avoid making the situation worse. We cannot let the Dravari strike first. If they attack humans, the galaxy will burn. Silence fell again. Finally, Vellner exhaled sharply. Very well. Send a message to Earth, request immediate alliance support. Ask for diplomatic discussion? Jorik nodded. I will write it myself. Humans trust me. I have worked with them for years. If the request comes from me, they will answer faster. As Jorik left the chamber, he felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier. The hall outside was dark and long. Guards moved nervously. Even they could feel the tension. Jorik walked quickly to the communication wing. He needed to contact Earth before the Dravari made their next move, but when he activated the long-range console, something unexpected happened. All communication channels flickered and then turned into static. A small message appeared on the main screen. Transmission interference. Unknown source. Possible external block. Jorik stared at it. The Dravari were already blocking communication. He understood instantly. They did not want the Council to contact humanity. They feared humans, or they remembered something. Something from thousands of years ago. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Jorik turned sharply and ran out of the room. He had to warn the Council. They had only one option left. They had to reach humanity. Another way, because humans had to be told. And if the Dravari were trying this hard to stop the message, then the ancient being's warning was even more serious than any of them. Realized the galaxy stood on the edge of something dangerous, and only humanity could decide what would happen. Next.jork did not waste time. The moment he saw the communication screen fail, he rushed back toward the council chamber. His steps echoed sharply through the long corridor. The guards noticed his urgency and stepped aside without question. Everyone already sensed that something terrible was building, like a storm waiting to break. When Jork entered the chamber, the counselors were still watching the Dravari fleet grow on the main screen. More enemy ships warped in every few minutes. The formation was now so large that it stretched like a dark wall in space. Vellner turned to him at once. "Commander, have you contacted Earth?" Jork shook his head. "No, the Dravari are blocking all long-range channels. They know we want to contact humanity. They are preventing it." A wave of panic moved across the chamber. Several counselors stood up, others whispered loudly. Vellner's eyes widened. "Then we are trapped. We cannot fight the Dravari without help, and humans cannot know what is happening." Jork raised his hand. "There is still another way. A direct jump vessel. One that does not rely on the standard channels. I can take it myself. I can reach Earth, but I must leave immediately." The counselors exchanged uncertain looks. Sending Jork alone was dangerous, but not sending him was worse. One counselor finally nodded. "Go. If the humans do not know what is coming, the galaxy will collapse before they even react." Jork did not wait for further discussion. He turned and ran out of the chamber again, heading for the lower docks where the council kept emergency ships. As he moved through the corridors, his mind raced. He remembered the ancient being's warning. He remembered its calm voice and the fear hidden beneath it. Do not provoke humanity. Do not awaken what sleeps within them. He never understood the full meaning until now, but the Dravari clearly understood, and they feared it. Enough to block transmissions, enough to gather a massive fleet. The Dravari wanted to strike before humans were prepared. When Jork reached the dock level, he noticed something wrong immediately. The air was filled with smoke. Alarms were flashing. Guards ran past him shouting orders. Some sections were on fire. Jork stopped a guard. "What happened here?" The guard pointed toward the docking doors. "Sabotage. We found explosive devices near the emergency jump ships. Someone tried to destroy them." Jork felt a cold shock in his chest. "Are the ships still usable?" "Only one," the guard said. "It was protected by a blast shield, but everything else is either damaged or unstable." Jork did not hesitate. "Take me to the remaining ship." The guard led him through the smoke-filled hall. They passed broken panels, fallen beams, and damaged equipment. Someone had planned this sabotage carefully. Someone wanted to make sure the Council could not contact humanity when they reached the surviving ship. Jork felt some relief. It was small but strong. Built for deep-range travel and emergency jumps, he stepped toward the entrance ramp. But before he could enter, 3 figures emerged from behind a stack of crates. They were armed. Jork froze. The leader of the group stepped closer. He was a council technician, someone Jork recognized. "You cannot leave," the man said quietly. "The Dravari gave us clear instructions. No message must reach the humans." Jork stared at him. "You are working with the Dravari?" The technician nodded. "We made a deal. If we help them, they will spare our worlds." Jork felt anger rise in him. "They will not spare anyone. They destroy everything. You are betraying the galaxy." The technician's soldiers raised their weapons. "Step away from the ship." Jork slowly lifted his hands. He counted the distance. He looked at the soldiers' positions. He looked at the control panel inside the ship. Only a few steps away, he made his decision. Jork suddenly dropped low and kicked a metal crate toward the nearest soldier. The man stumbled backward. Jork used the moment to rush forward. A shot fired past his shoulder, but he kept moving. He grabbed the arm of the second soldier and twisted hard. The weapon fell to the ground. Jork elbowed him and pushed him aside. The technician screamed, "Stop him!" But Jork had already reached the ramp. He turned and smashed the emergency panel. The ship door slid shut instantly, locking out the attackers. Outside, The soldiers hit the door and fired at it, but the hull was too strong. Inside. Jorik ran to the control seat and activated the engines. The ship rumbled to life. He set the coordinates for Earth and prepared the jump, but just as he pressed the activation switch, the entire dock shook. The Dravari fleet had launched a small strike against the border, causing a chain reaction through the defense network. Jorik held onto the controls. Hold together. Just a little longer. The ship stabilized. He hit the jump command. The stars outside stretched into lines of light, and the ship vanished into warp. The journey felt long. Even though the ship moved at extreme speed, Jorik sat still, breathing heavily, thinking about the message he needed to deliver. When Earth finally came into view, shining blue and bright, Jorik felt hope return. He activated the landing protocol and guided the ship toward the main human orbital station. The station quickly detected him and sent a communication signal. Unidentified vessel? State your identity. Jorik answered immediately. This is Commander Jorik of the Galactic Council. I bring urgent information. Humanity is in danger? There was a pause. Then the voice changed. Commander Jorik, this is Admiral Reyes. You are cleared to land. And you better explain everything fast. When Jorik landed and stepped out of his ship, he saw humans waiting for him. Soldiers in strong armor, leaders with cold expressions. They already felt something was wrong. Admiral Reyes stepped forward. Commander, what's happening? We received strange signals from the border. Then everything went silent. Jorik looked him directly in the eyes. The Dravari have returned. They are gathering a massive fleet, and they plan to attack you first. Reyes frowned. Why us? Jorik took a deep breath. Because they fear you. Because they fought your early ancestors long ago. Because they know what humans become when they are threatened. Reyes stood silently for a moment. Then he turned to his officers. Prepare a full defense alert. Gather every fleet. Contact the colonies. Bring everyone home. The humans moved quickly. No hesitation. No confusion. Only focus. Jorik watched them and understood why the ancient being had warned the council. Humans did not panic. They prepared. Several hours later, the human fleet gathered near Earth, thousands of ships. Some old, some new, some experimental. They formed a massive formation around the planet. Jorik stood beside Admiral Reyes on the command bridge. They will come soon? Jorik said quietly. Reyes nodded. And we will be ready. As if answering his words, the space around Earth began to distort. Red ripples appeared in the darkness. Jorik felt his heart pound. The Dravari? They found us. Hundreds of enemy ships burst out of warp. Forming a deadly wall in front of Earth, Reyes stared at the sight. Calm and steady. Open a channel, he ordered, a moment later. The Dravari commander appeared on the main screen. Humans, the commander growled. You survived longer than expected. But this ends now. We will finish what we started thousands of years ago. Reyes stepped forward. His voice was steady. You made a mistake coming here. You think we are the same species you fought long ago. But humans change. Humans adapt. Humans do not bow. The Dravari commander laughed. Your courage is meaningless. Reyes shook his head. You misunderstand. It is not courage. It is survival, he turned to his officers. All ships prepare weapons. The Dravari commander narrowed his eyes. You dare to resist us? Reyes answered with calm certainty. We don't resist. We fight. And with that, the battle began. The galaxy had been warned, and humanity was about to show why they should never be provoked.